No. Yes. You see it then.
Oh, it's red.
Red light.
Oh.
Yeah, look. Now the camera is on you.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, dear guests and colleagues, and welcome to this session of the Animal Welfare Intergroup. Thank you for joining us both online and here in Strasbourg. Today's session addresses a critical and urgent issue in animal welfare, the culling of male chicks in the egg industry. Male chicks are considered a byproduct of the egg production as they do not lay eggs and are not suitable for meat production. So each year, hundreds of millions of male chicks are culled across Europe shortly after hatching, most often through maceration or gassing. This practice raises profound ethical concerns, obviously, as it involves the mass killing of sentient animals who could otherwise live. The issue is also a growing societal concern. Citizens across Europe are increasingly aware of and opposed to male chick culling, demanding humane alternatives. Public opinion, consumer pressure, and the expansion of animal welfare standards are creating momentum for legislative change at the EU level. As we have actually scientific and technological advances that now provide feasible alternatives. In-Ovo sexing technologies can determine the sex of embryos before hatching, allowing male embryos to be identified earlier and preventing the need for post-hatch culling. Several companies have already begun implementing these technologies, and evidence suggests that they can be scaled up to cover commercial egg production, potentially transforming the sector while maintaining economic viability. Today's session will explore the ethical, scientific, and commercial dimensions of this issue. We will hear from experts and practitioners and discuss next policy steps for the European Parliament to support the elimination of male chick culling across the EU. I am, on a personal note, very pleased that we can have this discussion. I did not know much about this issue before entering this work in the European Parliament. I think it's pretty horrendous that we have hundreds of millions of chicks, male chicks, that are just being killed because they are a byproduct of the egg production. And we have the means to change that, so I think we need to act here. I have a couple of announcements before we continue or open up the theme of today. There are a couple of events that I would like to highlight next week. Tuesday, the 14th of October, we have an event on non-animal testing under the REACH revision, organized by Humane World for Animals and hosted by MEPs Tilly Metz and myself, Niels Fuglsang. This session will highlight innovative testing methods and examine how the revision of the REACH can help to phase out animal experiments. The same day, 14th of October, Tuesday, we have an event on closing the loopholes in the EU wildlife trade regulations, hosted by MEPs Gerben-Jan Gerbrandy, Anja Hersekamp, and Cesar Luena. This session will explore how the EU can strengthen its role in protecting wildlife by addressing current gaps in the legislation. And finally, that day, we have three events actually, and the third one is called Exploring the Future of Food, Cellular Agriculture and the Role of Farmers, a panel discussion hosted by Brussels Times with support of Gaia. Participants include Michel van den Bosch from Gaia, Reineke Hameles from Eurogroup for Animals, Ida van Elen from Respeggt Farms, Annelies Bogarts from Fishway, Mark Post from Mozambique, and MEPs Tilly Metz and myself, Niels Fuglsang. The panel will explore opportunities for and challenges of cellular agriculture and its impact on farmers, animal welfare, and sustainable food system. Unfortunately, yesterday, I could say from my point of view, there was a majority in the European Parliament voting in favor of more difficult conditions for cellular production, but I think we all the more reason to have a discussion on how we can improve this sector, or the conditions for this sector. Wednesday, 15th of October, also next week, we have an event called The True Cost of Fur, an economic analysis of the EU fur industry in room Spinelli 3H1, hosted by MEPs Christian Virkinen and Sirpa Pietikäinen. It's organized by the Eurogroup for Animals in collaboration with Fur Free Alliance. This in-person session will examine the economic, social, and environmental impacts of the EU fur industry and provide a forum for policymakers, experts, and stakeholders to discuss the future of fur farming in the EU. Ahead of this event, a stunt with a photo opportunity will take place at Place Luxembourg from 12 to 15, so from 12 to 3 in the afternoon, featuring our inflatable fox. So you can go there and have a picture taken showing that you support the cause. And we would, of course, invite you to do that. A couple of practical details, as I used to tell you in advance of the sessions here, that we will, the session is here, but it's also streamed online, and you can participate online. Live streaming is available via Interactio. The session will be recorded and materials will be available on the Intergroup's webpage. And interpretation is available in English, French, German, Italian, and Polish. And now we will kick off the theme of today, the theme on male chick culling. And so the first presenter here, we're very pleased to have you, Mr. Matteo Cupi, Vice President for Eurogroup of Animal Equality International, who will be outlining the ethical and societal concerns surrounding male chick culling and the urgent need for EU-level action. We have 3 presentations, so we have a limited time. We also need to be able to discuss with each other here afterwards. So, dear Mr. Cupi, the floor is yours for 10 minutes, please.
President and honorable members, thank you for the floor and for your leadership. Let me be blunt. Across the European Union, day-old male chicks are still killed at birth because the egg industry writes them off as a surplus. That's not a technical detail. It is an ethical failure, a societal blind spot, and crucially, an avoidable one. In the EU, this means 330 million lives a year. We're talking about 10 every second, ended by maceration or gas. We already have the knowledge, the tools, and the public mandate to stop it. 2 years ago, after a nationwide mobilization and following Germany, Austria, France, and Austria, Italy chose a different path. No more treating the old male chicks as a waste. And that wasn't luck. It was citizens' ethics meeting workable technology, and we have a great opportunity to establish a European standard for the progress of 4 member states. This is the choice before us: innovation over inertia, and one single market over a patchwork, trust over confusion. No more systematic culling, clear time-bound rules for the industry, and real enforcement. Honest information for citizens, and because what works in member states must now work for Europe, so that our competitiveness and our compassion finally point in the same direction. This is our agenda for today, what's at stake. We're going through the public demand and market signals, feasibility and member state action. Also, we're going to talk about the Italian case study and activism, the EU policy gap and action and solutions transition toolbox, and also policy recommendations. So the European treaties already recognize that animals are sentient beings and that the public policy must pay full regard to their welfare requirements. If we accept that, then killing a healthy sentient animal on day one because it's not profitable, not profitable enough, cannot be squared with our values. It's also a societal issue because citizens care. The most recent EU-level consumer evidence indicates that 3/4 of EU citizens find this practice unacceptable. And people want solutions that align with their ethics, and they are willing to support them. So, across Europe, consumer research shows strong acceptance of In-Ovo sexing, which is the technology that identifies sex before chicks hatch, so that males need to be born only to be killed. In fact, multiple surveys report majorities willing to pay a small premium for eggs produced without male chick culling, well above the actual marginal cost of deploying the technology. And also, this is another aspect really important. This is not theoretical, because by March 2024, about 20% of EU laying group was already being hatched using In-Ovo sexing, with rapid month-over-month growth. But here we're not starting from zero. Germany implemented a nationwide ban on chick culling in January 2022, paired with technology uptake and R&D support. But here's the loophole. About half of all laying hens in Germany come from EU countries where killing male chicks is still allowed. France also banned this practice via the Rural Code, effective December 2022. Austria followed in 2022 by amending its Animal Welfare Act to prohibit chick culling, which has also driven uptake of In-Ovo sexing. Together, these decisions demonstrate both technical feasibility and regulatory clarity in major EU markets. In Italy, where roughly 35 million day-old chicks are killed every year, Parliament voted in December 2021 to end the practice by December 31, 2026. The breakthrough didn't happen by chance. It was built step by step by citizens who refused to look away, by sustained mobilization in the streets and online, and by rigorous evidence and cross-party outreach, and by direct engagement with the industry led by Animal Equality. But a law without implementing, we're talking about implementing decrees, is only a promise on paper. Progress has been too slow, which is why in early 2025, we lit up the Colosseum with a simple and uncompromising message: enforce the ban until the decrees are adopted, budgeted and applied with clear standards, timelines and penalties. Our campaigns remain active, peaceful, lawful and relentless. We stand with citizens who demand consistency and with institutions that want clarity and fairness. Because laws open the door, but enforcement carries us through. Italy has shown the path, and now let's turn the commitment into protection so that no chicken is born only to be destroyed. Today, Europe faces a patchwork. A few member states ban culling, others do not, and that creates welfare dumping risks, uneven competition and uncertainty for hatcheries and retailers operating cross borders, and confusion for citizens who expect consistent standards across the single market. Parliament's own brief has already underscored the scale of the problem and noted member state calls for an EU-wide approach. The intergroup's work today is about turning that momentum into policy. The solution set is ready. In-Ovo sexing at scale with performance standards that the industry can meet, transitional support for hatcheries, targeted innovation, funding, training, and procurement signals to the risk adoption. Clear labeling options to allow also citizens to choose no chick culling eggs and reward frontrunners, and equivalent outcome import requirements, so eggs placed in the EU market meet the same animal welfare outcome, no systematic killing of day-old male chicks. Europe should adopt a union-wide prohibition on the systematic killing of day-old male chicks with a clear, time-bound transition and import equivalence so that any egg on the EU market meets the same welfare outcome. Talking about still, I'm repeating myself, no systematic culling. At the same time, set minimal technical benchmarks for alternatives, sex determination before hatch, validated accuracy and hatchability, throughput thresholds, and independent audits. So innovators and retailers can invest with confidence and compete on a level field. Fund the transition using Horizon relevant CAP instruments to support retrofits, training and validation, and tie public funding to measurable performance so pilots become practice. Empower citizens with trustworthy information by authorizing at EU level no-chick culling claim backed by verification, letting consumers pull the market as the law pushes it, and secure credibility with harmonized control, annual reporting, and a review clause that tightens standards as technology advances. This package delivers what Article 13 TFEU and European citizens already expect, and it gives business that certainty it needs to invest, scale, and compete fairly, align our single market's competitiveness with compassion. Honorable members, this is not a technical footnote, it's a line in the sand. A union that recognizes animals as sentient must legislate as if that recognition means something. We have the science, we have the citizens, and we have member states proving that the transition works. What we need now is the statute. Let us end the practice that belonged to the past and set a clear European standard. No animal is born only to be destroyed. Let us choose innovation over inertia, one single market over a patchwork, competitiveness aligned with compassion. It is how we improve our society, by making our economy answer to our ethics and by turning care into law. If we act, Europe leads. If we delay, Europe drifts. Let this Parliament be remembered as the one that turned compassion into policy and policy into progress for the animals which are enduring the worst we can inflict as a human society. We must do the best we can do, and it for citizens who want honesty and for a union that keeps its promise to the sentient beings in its care. Animal Equality stands ready to work with co-legislators, the Commission, and to deliver this transition swiftly, credibly, and fairly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cupi, very clear, very obvious after listening to you, I think, what needs to be done. Now we will hear from Dr. Monteiro, Belo, dos Santos, and Dr. Corion. They are from KU Leuven. Maybe you can just tell us what that is exactly, so if somebody here doesn't know. And you will present the latest scientific advances in In-Ovo sexing technologies, so basically the alternative to culling. And you will explore the feasibility and potential for scaling these technologies up across the industry. And you will have the floor for 8 minutes. Thank you very much.
Can I just have yes. So, indeed, good morning, and thank you for the invitation, Mr. President, honorable members. Myself, Simão, and Matthias, we are researchers from the KU Leuven, the university in Belgium, and we've been researching about In-Ovo sexing technologies and developing techniques ourselves. And here we are presenting what is In-Ovo sexing to avoid male chick culling. In-Ovo sexing, as it was said before, it is the sexual determination of the fetus before hatching. And currently there's a couple of issues still, one being the technology investment costs, which we'll talk about a bit later, and also the embryonic pain perception. But despite these two, the consumers still prefer this practice to the other alternatives to male chick culling when it's done in an early phase. And here we also see a study from the Technical University of Munich from 2023, so the most recent study, showing EEG signals from the eggs, measured from the eggs within a 21-day incubation. They start seeing these EEG signals at day 13 of incubation. So we can assume that before this date there is no in which they modify the Z gene of the female hen, the mother, and then this modification will pass on to only the males. And then between day 3 to 6, in the day 3 of incubation, you can actually see which ones are females or males, or even destroy the males inside of the incubation and remove them. However, in the EU, we don't have, the legislation does not allow for these techniques. Then moving on to the optical In-Ovo sexing technique, starting with Raman. This is a technique developed from AAT, but it's not commercialized. It checks the composition of the blood between males and females, but they require to open quite a large hole in the egg and identify a vessel. It harms a lot the egg, so they've stopped a bit the investigation on this one, but they've been spreading this visible near-infrared spectroscopy because it's a non-invasive technique. So it's just with a bulb, with a light, they can check differences in coloring between males and females, although only working in brown eggs at day 13 of incubation, with a rather good accuracy. We have a very recent company, Omega. They are also doing visible near-infrared spectroscopy inside of the incubator, so the eggs don't need to be removed from the incubator, and they do a kind of a continuous reading between day 3 to day 6 when they can do the sexing. The last one, a very interesting one, a technique commercialized by Orbam and expanding quite a lot. They do a nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy to the eggs at day 12 of incubation with a good accuracy, and they can see the differences between the ovaries and the testes of the female and the male. This one has been expanding a lot within Europe. How do they do this nowadays? Most of the companies working in this In-Ovo sexing implementation, they do kind of the same system. So they do a paper test system. This machinery, as you can imagine, is rather expensive. So the In-Ovo sexing company, they own the device, and the hatchery will hire the services. So they will install the devices in the hatchery, and they will do a paper test. So for each test, per each egg, they will pay to the company. Then these sexed eggs, the sexed females, will be sold to rearing farms where they will lay eggs already with a premium price, around 2.5 to 3.5 euros more extra. But in the end, we see that the consumers will only pay extra 1 to 2 cents more per egg. And this is a recent study from the market in the Netherlands. And here we can see how the technologies have been implemented in the European market. We see that it's quite a widespread technology. A lot of hatcheries have been using it nowadays. And as you can see, Orbam has been quite widespread, the orange dots one, and also AAT. Almost all countries in the European Union are using it. And most interestingly, is the presence of these In-Ovo sexing technologies in Norway, in the US, and also in Brazil, which is the most recent one. These countries, they don't have legislation, but due to economical reasons or also ethical, they are bringing these technologies to their own markets. And just to conclude, it was a very fast due to the technical issues. The technology as we have it today, it is feasible, it is efficient, and can be already applied. It's been applied in several hatcheries. And hatcheries, we have 2 examples from the US. They've built 2 new hatcheries from Kipster and Netfresh, already considering the In-Ovo sexing techniques. We have optical and non-optical, depending on what the hatchery needs. And whilst, firstly, the technology implementation was pushed by legislation within the EU, as in Germany and France, in Italy, etc., the new technological developments allow for implementation for economical reasons. However, there are still things to consider. For instance, the discussions on male discarded eggs for exotic animal food, and also a possible decrease in exports due to the increase of prices of the laying hens. Mm-hmm. And with this, I would like to finish, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much. Let's give you a round of applause. Very clear that alternatives do exist,
yep.
That research is going on, and you have actually found very good results. They come with a little bit of a higher economic price per egg, but the question is then if we're willing to pay that. That brings me on to our next speaker, our final speaker, who is Mr. Silvin Faulstich, Business Development Manager at Respeggt Group for In-Ovo sexing. And perhaps, Silvin, you could explain the Respeggt Group, what that is, for those who might not know. You will share practical insights on the application and market uptake of the alternatives to male chick culling. So we have heard about the alternatives, and now we will hear about how it looks from a market point of view. And we look very, very much forward to hearing that. And Mr. Faulstich, you have the floor for 4 minutes, please. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, honorable members. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, very happy to be here. Yeah, so my name is Silvin Faulstich. I'm with currently Respeggt Group still. Maybe just a few short note on our naming. Next slide. We are invited as Respeggt Group, but we are currently undergoing a rebranding, and we are switching our name to Select. That has been the original technology, so you don't get confused by all the namings on the slides. So who is Respeggt, who is Select? We are a German company for In-Ovo sexing, owned by a Dutch mother company called Hashtag. We are on the market since 2019. We were one of the first technologies on the market. It comes basically from basic research from the University of Leipzig, the entire method and technology. And since then, since 2017, 18, 19, has been developed from a prototype into a market-ready product. Next slide. So what is our view and perspective on the In-Ovo sexing currently? Next slide. If we look at Europe and actually also beyond, we do see many countries already that have In-Ovo sexing implemented, be it because of a legal ban, France, Germany, Italy to be there soon, Austria, or whether it is just technology being present already in one or more of the hatcheries in these countries. So what we see on the market side, many countries, many companies are preparing for that on a either mandated basis or on a voluntary basis. Yeah, and with that, we can go to the next slide already. So our commercial perspective on the entire topic is mainly that we believe that what has started as a first ethical concern now will become more and more part of an efficiency also, an efficiency aspect, and that it will become hatchery automation. We've learned a lot already about what is going on, so I don't have to explain that. Currently, still the majority of hatcheries throughout Europe are producing in a conventional way, where half of the animals basically are discarded just after hatch. But we have technologies available now that can prevent that, and we see that this is happening. So In-Ovo sexing equipment has found its place in many hatcheries throughout Europe, as we just saw already. But a very important aspect for its adoption, obviously, is that it has to be economically viable as well. And one other point I would like to focus here is taking out 51% of the eggs in the middle of the hatching process also enables for other practices that are currently coming up in the industry, to be adopted, which I want to show you quickly right now. If you go to the next slide. So the current process, basically, the conventional process in a hatchery is you have to set the eggs for a certain quantity of laying hen flock, and at day 18, that's a so-called transfer where you do candling. So this is where you sort out all the infertile eggs, and then you have to do a hatching for the last days. And after that, you conventionally, the sex today. And then you send them to rearing, but what you cannot do at this point is In-Ovo vaccination, because you don't want to waste vaccines on male animals, because they will not lay eggs. You also cannot do on-farm hatching, because you also don't want to rear all the male animals. And early feeding is also not possible. So using In-Ovo sexing on the one hand side, next slide, please, is solving the issue of day-old male chick culling, but it is also opening up ways for other new technologies. So if you apply In-Ovo sexing technology, no matter which one you decide, you can set the eggs, and then after In-Ovo sexing, that can be starting on day 6 with one of our competitors, can start on day 8, 9 with us or other companies a bit later. After the sexing, which is then done, let's say on day 8, 9, you can free up your setting capacity and actually start a new batch. So we see hatcheries basically everywhere in the world that are running at their capacity limits. So having additional capacity is very interesting for them. Right after the sexing and a further setting, you can also apply In-Ovo vaccination already. And after hatching, you can implement further technologies like early feeding or on-farm hatching. Next slide, please. So our technology basically has already been explained how the method works. So I want to give you a short overview on our current technology setup. Next slide. Which is basically a technical drawing of our current setup. So this is what you would see in being implemented in hatcheries if you would decide for our technology or more or less also one of the other technologies. So what we do here, you see an integrated production line for sexing, let's say. It starts on the lower left side with the so-called quality scan. So what is being done here is a first initial scan of the quality of the eggs. So you make sure you only send the highest quality eggs through the process. Then to the right, you see conveyor belts and 2 units slightly upwards, which are 2 sampling robots. We are using a non-optical method. We are analyzing DNA, and this is where the samples from every hatching egg is taken. And after that, the eggs leave the quality scan and are being stored until the DNA results are available. And then at the ultimate step, which is on the upper left end, we have a sorting robot that gets the results right from the DNA analysis and sorts basically full female trays that can go back into the incubator and then finish that process. And the setup, as you can see here, requires more or less 165 square meters. This is what we have in place now in a couple of hatcheries in Germany and the Netherlands. And one setup like this can produce up to 20 million female laying hens per year. So you have an idea of how much technology is actually necessary to convert an entire country or certain countries to free of chick culling. So having 2 of these setups basically would be sufficient to do 90% of a German market if it's operated basically 24/7. So just to give you an understanding where we're at with the technology, where we are with automation, and that the entire technology from us or from our competitors as well has matured essentially. Next slide.
Mr. Faulstich, we are coming to the end time-wise, so just for your info.
Yeah, okay. I just finish up here. What I want to say, it is scalable for us and for all the other technologies as well. We are using non-optical technologies, offers the highest accuracy on the market. It is scalable, it is flexible, it can fit large hatcheries that are built right now, but also small ones that are in place already. And with that, I'd like to close. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much to all of our speakers. I think it's been some perspectives that have made us enlightened us and given us some room for thought, I think. What's going on right now, we heard about that with the chick culling, we heard about the alternatives, we heard about the scaling up possibilities. So I'd like to open up the floor if any of the good members here have questions or comments. Jessica, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you to all the presenters. I apologize for arriving a little bit late. Hectic day today. But I really appreciate the initiative of discussing this, and I regret there are so little MEPs in the room today. I hope some are joining online and see this, because this is exactly the reason why I think if you really want to improve animal welfare, you have to work together with the industry. You have to work together with innovation. This is a high-tech solution that does improve animal welfare big time. So I'm coming from the agri-food industry myself, and the reason why I joined this intergroup is because I really believe in the dialogue together. This is how we improve things. So I really congratulate you on this work. The question I have is, I think for the researchers here, do you envision that we can do this quick enough to be able to use the male eggs for consumers? So right now, you know, with a lot of the technology, you still have to wait a couple of days and then we cannot use it for the consumer market anymore. I mean, that would be the ideal situation, but I'll have more questions, so you can answer them later. And then I have a question for you that is, we're having the discrepancy in the member states when it comes to the legal framework, if I understand your presentation correctly. So if we have this and we have this uniform throughout the European Union, that will help, but how do you envision the problem that we have with upcoming trade deals? For instance, Ukraine, we have seen a record high import of eggs coming from Ukraine, and I'm not sure how advanced this implementation of technology in Ukraine is, but then, I mean, and I support this, so don't get me wrong, but if we're making production costs higher here and consumers pay 1 to 2 cents more per egg, but we're getting cheap eggs in from Ukraine, we're shifting the problem. Because then we're shifting the problem of the male chicks towards Ukraine. So what is needed in order to keep that consumer price stable so the consumer will not pick the Ukrainian egg? Those are my two questions.
Very good. Thank you very much, Jessica. And you could add perhaps to that last comment on import from Ukraine, the Mercosur agreement that we discussed earlier in this forum. What will that mean for this whole problem? No, perhaps, okay, perhaps that's, yeah, animal welfare in general, yeah. Anyone else? Petras, please.
Thank you. Thank you to our speakers. I'm interested more on technological side. So that technology which identifies, I mean, what is what? You said that it's rather expensive in terms of investments. I mean, you have any idea, I mean, how much it is, well, expensive in order to become affordable for smaller farms, chicken farms. And you mentioned again, it adds from 1 to 2 cents, euro cents per egg. But probably with the scaling up production of those technologies in Europe, I hope it's European technology, we might reduce, I mean, the overall price for that installment in order to make it financially affordable, because it makes some sense for smaller, probably, producers, I mean, to see it happening. Thank you.
We'll gather the questions and comments, and then we'll get back to you. Maria, you had a comment, question.
Ganz herzlichen Dank. Ich habe vielleicht noch eine.
Thank you so much. Can I ask you please to put on your headsets?
Ich habe vielleicht eine.
Well, I have a question. It's a simple question. Well, this basically means that if you want to listen to the English, then you need to switch on to channel 2. Channel 2. So this basically means that we must continue being specialized. That is, you have the egg-laying hens and the ones that are used for poultry. So I would be interested to know that this would mean entirely that we move away from this idea of having two types of breeding. I'd like to know, you just have the laying hens and the poultry or the meat hens, because I guess in the case of poultry, the sexing wouldn't really apply. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And then Christina.
Thank you very much. I will speak in Italian since my questions are in particular focused on animal equality, so I know that we can understand each other. Grazie infinite della vostra presentazione, sono stata molto...
Thank you. I was interested to listen to the technological implementation, which is part of this whole package. My question to animal equality. Question of labeling in the case of respecting male chick as such. Would that be a good strategy to have an ethical choice when you buy eggs? And secondly, public subsidies, public aid. Mrs. van Leuven has just talked about imports, and this is where our responsibility is to have trade agreements that make it possible to have exactly the same conditions for the imported products. But working in the Agricultural Committee and as a farmer, I think that on the market, the consumer, which finds it harder to pay, is maybe not prepared to pay the value of these products. Whereas the institutions, of course, can understand the benefits, the ecosystemic services generated by farmers who do organic farming or who invest in animal welfare. Now, as an association, what do you think about this type of investments of public funds to achieve these objectives? I understand the value of the life of the animal because that is my job, but at the same time, we have intensive production systems which make it quite difficult to take this this step because of the costs that it involves. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Very relevant on the costs, the price here, and whether we're willing to pay. I will now give the floor back to the presenters. You will have 2 to 3 minutes each. So there are a lot of relevant questions, and you can see which questions you're best suited at answering. I will start here.
Yeah, well, thank you for your practical question. This is something that, of course, we have to deal with, talking about imports. And what you said regarding Ukraine is true. Right now, about eggs, there are like many countries that are like, maybe they have strict laws about cages, but then they are like importing from different countries. So this is why, and this is, I don't want to be ideological right now, but this is why I believe that Europe can be the forefront of progress by leading by example and requiring also that those products, if you want to consume those products, as the other colleagues said before, the people who consume these products also have the responsibility to deal with it. Because if it wasn't for subsidies, animal products would cost a lot, and you know that. Also, 2 years ago, it was released a documentary talking about that. So we have to deal not only with imports, but also with the subsidies that are making these animal products so cheap that people, of course, they're going to want to buy less. But we know that animal products are really expensive. So this is something that we have to deal with. We're talking about animal lives and not products. So of course, I understand your point. It's tricky. I have no a real answer for that. We should develop a system where actually we can find a compromise for imports against what actually we want in Europe. But I believe that we can do that because, for example, for certain food products, certain food products in Europe are banned. They cannot get imported. So this is just making the right choice. And to answer you, I'm going to speak in Italian. Questo è qualcosa che ci stiamo lavorando.
Well, we're actually working on this. To make sure that the law, before the law comes into force, we have decrees that are going to be implemented, and we're also working on labels. Certain supermarkets are selling eggs with this type of labeling, but it's a decision taken by the companies. So we do want a clarification on the labels, because it needs to be transparent. And on public funds, in this transitional phase, we're asking for the Ministry of Agriculture and Health Ministry to try and make sure that we can understand how much money we need to allocate how much money we need to allocate to this particular important enterprise. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Then we'll go to KU Leuven, if you want to respond.
Yes, thank you very much. I would be happy to answer the questions. So the first question about the sexing of the males, let's say. So the earliest now that embryos can be sexed is on day 8 of incubation out of the 21 days. So the question is whether the eggs would still be viable for human consumption, and that would mean that we would not start the incubation of these eggs. Unfortunately, we need to have a developing embryo. So if we are incubating an egg already for 3 days, there is already blood vessels developing, so then eggs would not be viable anymore for human consumption. The earliest technology, let's say, is the GMO, which is not commercially applied. There the concept is that the males will die off at day 3, day 5 of incubation, but also there, those male eggs, they carry gene editing, so also they would not be viable. So in this moment, there exists no technology that would allow to separate the eggs that would have a male embryo for human consumption. So in this moment, that is not a solution yet. Yeah, so people are researching also.
So I have to repeat because otherwise on the online they cannot hear it.
Sure.
So that part I understand that we are not there. But my question is, do you envision? Because ideally that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
Because that would mean that we don't waste so many eggs. So my question is, do you envision that one day we will be there? I mean, I'm a great believer of technology and innovation. So just if you can dream as a researcher, do you believe we can get there?
Okay, thank you. So the answer to that is that for 10 years, intensive research has been done on In-Ovo sexing technologies. Researchers in Canada, they claim to determine the sex on day 0 with hyperspectral imaging. However, it's possible to detect fertility, but the sex is very difficult still. So envisioning it's further future, let's say. In this moment, there is no technology yet, but people are looking into it. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Then the second question about the affordability and the expensiveness of the technology. I'm sure also Silvin from Respeggt could answer this one. What we could say is that 3 commercial technologies are on the market. They're different prices depending on their technology. The cheaper one is the one that determines the sex of the brown laying hens, because they use a less expensive technology. However, they cannot sex the white hens. So this is, for smaller hatcheries, easy implementable, let's say. The other ones, they can come in units. So depending on how many units you install, it becomes scalable. But I'm sure Silvin will have a more answer to that from his expertise. Then the third question for the alternative. So we talked indeed about In-Ovo sexing. It's one alternative solution. Raising dual-purpose chickens that produce equally eggs and meat. They exist, but we believe it's more a niche product because economically speaking, they will less efficient than the pure meat chickens or the pure egg-laying chickens. So it would offer the solution to also breed the males, but they will eat more feed. They will have a higher carbon footprint. So if you want to go towards maybe the question of sustainability and economics, maybe this is not the main answer to the solution. And In-Ovo sexing might be the more way to go solution for. And then just the last point about trading. So there was a question about our competitiveness in Europe towards importing and exporting. So one interesting topic to add is that if we have technologies and the prices of the chicks might raise, our competitiveness for exports will be challenged, let's say, especially to African countries. African countries rely a lot also on Belgian and French hatcheries for the import of the female chicks. So there, if the price of the chicks will increase in short term, let's say, that could be a challenge. So it's also something to take into account for a gradual transition, to also be able to supply the African countries with chicks from Europe.
Thank you very much. Mr. Faulstich, you have the floor as the last person. You have 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting questions. I just want to add a few words to what Matthias already said, because, most of it I also wanted to say. So regarding the pricing, what we see, yes, the technology adds a little of additional cost, but what we see, so the 2 cents that we've seen on the presentations before really has been in the beginning of when the technology has been implemented, so in 2019. What we see now, what is happening in Europe and Germany and also in the US is below 1 cent already, depends on where you look. So it is actually prices should be going down in the future as we scale up, and this is something we as a company work on also work on currently, to bring down the cost of our testing. The ultimate goal is to match the cost of hatching a male, because that really would make it, there wouldn't be a question anymore whether we should use it or not. Yeah, so I cannot say much more regarding how much investment it would be. This is something which really depends on the size of the hatchery, on the individual markets and everything, and that is something I would discuss commercially with any hatchery. On the other hand, for small hatcheries, which I'm pretty sure most of the companies are willing to see how they can support any size of the hatchery. So there's different ways how to deal with this investment. It can be a lease model, it can be an investment. So there's different ways to deal that. So this helped us also to work with different sizes of hatchery, with large ones, but also with small ones. Regarding day 0, Matthias mentioned most of it. I just want to add that also currently when using or when doing on day 8 or day 6 or day 11, the male eggs they don't need to be wasted. They are not waste necessarily. Currently, we process them into protein powder. Ideally, obviously, it would be to use them for human consumption, but as Matthias Corion said, currently there is no technology, and even the Canadian technology, I know it from personal conversations, they aim for day 0, but they recently communicated that they currently can do day 4, but they also not on the market yet. So it will be something for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Faulstich. We unfortunately have to close the meeting now as we are approaching 10 o'clock. I would like to thank you very much for all of the speakers for their insights. I think we had an excellent discussion, really. And also, I think this topic, it seems to me, listening to colleagues here, that there could be some opportunities for cross-political cooperation here, which is a very helpful thing. So thank you very much. I think action needs to be taken, and let's see what we can do. I will close today's meeting, and I will say that next meeting will be on Thursday, the 23rd of October, from 9 to 10 in this room, and it will be focusing on how to deliver cage-free legislation the road ahead. Thank you very much for today, and have a great end of the week.